7 years after the deadly listeriosis outbreak, Tiger Brands has made a settlement offer, and more than 200 people died and over 800 became sick after consuming contaminated viennas and also polony. Let's now deliberate on this further to see what exactly does it mean, right? And what does the process then entail going forward? We've got Amy Tuchten, who is with the Spoor Attorneys. Good evening to you, Amy, and thank you so much for your time. So let's just start with your reaction to the settlement offer.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. My initial reaction to the settlement offer on behalf of the class attorneys is that this is a welcome step in the direction of finalizing this matter. We believe that the defendants, by making an offer to settle a portion of the group of the class, which comprises of over 1,000 persons, with the portion they have offered to settle being approximately 300 persons. We believe that that is an important step in the direction of the ultimate resolution of the matter.
And does it say anything about the rest of the, the group?
Yes, so the group that the defendants have made an offer to settle have a specific form of DNA evidence that is in what layperson's terms would call a fingerprint match to the Tiger Brands Polokwane facility during the listeriosis outbreak. So it links their clinical sample, their human sample, to the food and product samples taken from that facility at the time. But the way we see it as the class attorneys is that this is the evidentiary basis for the entire class. It just so happens that the NICD at the time didn't use this testing sequencing on all of the samples taken. But from our perspective, if a person had listeriosis during the outbreak period and they can demonstrate that they consumed Tiger products, they fall within the class and they fall to be compensated at the end of this matter.
Do you envision then possibly an uphill battle, given the fact that now it speaks about this 300 and it talks about, of course, this, apparent direct link, and then you look at now the possibly around 700. Do you foresee that there might be an uphill battle when you try then to look at the rest of the group that still remains?
A settlement offer is simply that it's the first step in a series of negotiations. We've seen this earlier in the year with the first step in the provision of interim advances to certain claimants. But a settlement process will require the development of a settlement mechanism, possibly with mediation, which is now a new requirement by the High Court. But before any of this can take place and before any settlement is finalized, it will have to be made an order of the High Court, because the court is the ultimate guardian of the class members over and above the class attorneys.
And when does that process ensue?
So that process is ensuing now. The settlement offer was received on the 25th of April. We are in the process of responding and negotiating with the defendants, and we really welcome and admire the public's investment in this matter, because we truly believe that it is a big component of why this matter has gained momentum so far along in the case.
And Amy, we speak, you and I, of course, you're representing the people that have been central to this particular matter. And I remember at the time the devastating consequences of this, and various families speaking about the impact that this has had. To think about some pregnant women as well and all of that. How have they, processed these developments?
I think there's been a huge amount of grief, and progressive grief, grief on top of grief that has taken place for all of our class members. I think of, women who lost children both before birth and after birth due to listeriosis. They haven't been able to find closure because the matter hasn't been resolved. This is at the emotional level. If we speak about the physical and mental suffering of persons because of the physical fallout of the listeriosis infection, that's a different beast entirely. The hospital and medical expenses that persons undergo due to the listeriosis infection, even 7 years later, is incredibly astounding.
And Amy, just for confirmation purposes, now the 300, right, is this group, one, those who contracted it or whose mothers contracted listeriosis, whose legal breadwinners or whom they were legally dependent died of listeriosis, and those whose legal dependents were in their care of those who contracted listeriosis. Did I capture that correctly?
Yes, you've captured it correctly. Those reflect our class definitions. So there are, within the class action, there are various classes. There are personal injury claims, which are, classes for persons who contracted listeriosis or for the parents of persons who contracted listeriosis. We then also have support claims and dependence claims. In terms of the listed individuals that you're describing, those speak to the clinical samples, so the human DNA samples that were taken from the person who fell ill at the time. But it doesn't necessarily correlate exactly to who the claimant in terms of that case would be.
Amy, thank you so much for your time. And as you say, it's an important step. And let's see then what happens, just as you continue with the processes now and, getting to that moment when it's made an order of the court. And at the same time, when you then wrap up, even for the other claimants that you and I have spoken about this evening. But thank you so much for chatting to us. That was Amy Tuchten there, who's Richard Spoor with Richard Spoor Attorneys. And of course, talking about this issue of listeriosis.